What's up, guys？ 今天是我第11次的口说跟读练习，那开始喽。
Most distraction, it turns out, is not spurred by the external triggers at all.
Most distraction, it turns out, is not spurred by the external trigger at all.
Most distraction does not start outside of us, but rather starts from within.
Most distraction does not start outside of us, but rather start from within.
The root cause of why we become distracted is because we feel these internal triggers.
The root cause of why we become distracted is because we feel these internal triggers.
Uncomfortable emotional states that we seek to escape.
That uncomfortable emotion state that we seek to escape.
So if we're going to answer Plato's question of why do we get distracted?
So if we were gonna answer Plato's questions of why do we get distracted,
Why do we do things against our better judgment?
why do we do things against our bad judgment,
We have to start one layer deeper with first principles of why do we do anything.
we have to start one layer deeper with first principles of why do we do anything.
What's the nature of human motivation?
What's the nature of human motivation?
And when you think about it, most people will tell you some version of carrots and sticks.
And when you think about it, most people will tell you some version of carrot and sticks.
That it's about the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain.
That is Freud's pleasure principle.
But neurologically speaking, that's not true.
But neurologically speaking, that's not true.
And in fact, we do not do things in the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain.
That in fact, we do not do things in the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain.
That neurologically speaking, we only do things for one reason.
That neurologically speaking, we only do things for one reason,
And that is to avoid discomfort.
and that is to avoid discomfort.
Physiologically, we know this is true.
Physiologically, we know that is true.
If you go outside and it's cold,
If you go outside and it's cold,
that's not comfortable. What do you do? You put on a coat.
that's not comfortable. What do? You put on a coat.
And when you go back inside, now it's too hot.
And when you go back inside, now it is too hot.
That's not comfortable. You take it off.
That's not comfortable. You take it off.
If you're hungry, you feel hunger pangs, you eat.
If you're hungry, if your hunger pants, you eat.
And when you're stuffed, oh, that doesn't feel good.
And when you're stuffed, that doesn't feel good,
You stop eating.
you stop eating.
So physiologically, we feel this all the time. This is called the homeostatic response.
Physiologically, we feel this all the time. And this is called the homeostatic response.
The same rules apply with psychological sensation.
The same rules apply with psychological sensations,
It's not just with physiological sensations.
not just with physiological sensations.
So, when you're feeling lonely,
So, when you're feeling lonely,
check
check
Facebook.
Facebook.
You Google.
When you're uncertain, you Google.
When you're bored, check the news, check sports scores, check Reddit, Pinterest, whatever.
When you're bored, check the news, check sports scores, check Reddit, Pinterest, whatever.
All of these things cater to these uncomfortable sensations.
All of these things cater to these uncomfortable sensations.
So that means if all human behavior is spurred by a desire to escape discomfort,
So that means if all human behavior is spurred by desire to escape discomfort,
that means, as you said, time management is pain management.
that means, as you said, time management is pain management.
Fundamentally, if we don't deal with this fact
Fundamentally, if we don't deal with this fact,
that we are trying to escape an uncomfortable sensation when we become distracted,
that we are trying to escape an uncomfortable sensation when we become distracted.
If we don't understand it and learn new methods to cope with that discomfort,
If we don't understand it and learn new methods to cope with this discomfort,
we're always going to be distracted.
we're always going to be distracted by one thing or another.
One of the things that people do that doesn't work is strict abstinence.
One of the things that people do that doesn't work is strict abstinence.
Now, strict abstinence is when you tell yourself, I am not going to do that thing.
And strict abstinence is when you tell yourself, I'm not going to do that thing.
And it turns out that strict abstinence, for many behaviors, backfires.
And it turns out strict abstinence for many behaviors backfires.
Particularly behaviors that are very difficult to avoid completely.
Particularly behavior that are very difficult to avoid completely.
You abstain from food if you're on a diet.
How do you abstain from food if you're on a diet?
You have to eat. How do you
You have to eat.
abstain from technology these days?
How do you abstain from technology this day?
I mean, it's imperative to do our jobs.
I mean, it's imperative to do our jobs.
We can't just say, stop using email for 30 days. You'll lose your job. You'll get fired.
We can just say stop using email for 30 days. You'll lose your job. You'll get fired.
So, for those type of potential distractions,
So for those type of potential distractions,
we don't want to just abstain.
we don't want to just abstain.
And just to dive into that, the research is so interesting.
And just dive in and just to dive in, because I think research is so interesting.
When we do abstain,
When we do abstain,
we tell ourselves, no, absolutely not.
we tell ourselves, no, absolutely not.
It's almost like pulling on a rubber band.
It's almost like pulling on a rubber band.
Now, when you pull on a rubber band, you stretch,
And when you pull on the rubber band,
and you let go.
you stretch, and you let go.
It doesn't just go back to where you started.
It doesn't just go back to where you started.
It ricochets even further.
It ricochets even further.
And that's what happens when we employ strict abstinence.
And that's what happens when we employ with strict abstinence. OK，今天就这样喽，拜拜。